পার্সন ট্রাই করছেন জয়েন হওয়ার জন্য, মণিপুর থেকে জয়েন হওয়ার চেষ্টা করছেন উনি। ডিউ টু ডিউ টু নেটওয়ার্ক ইস্যু উনি জয়েন হতে পারছেন না। উনি জয়েন হলেই আমরা আমাদের টেকনিক্যাল পেশেন্ট শুরু করব।
হ্যাঁ দিদি জয়েন করেছে দিদি। কৃষ্ণাদি।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, ঠিক। Good afternoon, everyone. Now we're ready to start our after lunch first half technical session. For this session, I welcome Mr. Konkon Roy, Assistant Professor, Department of Geography, Kalinagar Mahavidyalaya, as the moderator of this session. Thank you, Konkon. It's over to you.
Thank you, Didi. Welcome back to the third session of this day, of this 7 days workshop on research methodology. Today, we have with us as resource person is Dr. Bishwajit Das, is Assistant Professor of Geography, currently teaching in Manipur Central University. Before joining into the Manipur Central University, he was assistant professor of Salesian College in Siliguri. So he has some network issues, as we all know that Manipur now is become some disturbances is going on there, and that why he has got some network issues. Fortunately, today he is available with us. Now, without taking much time, I will just over to Dr. Bishwajit Das to start his session.
Thank you, Kundan. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
So first of all, very good afternoon to everyone. So before starting my lecture, I would like to extend my gratitude towards the teacher in charge of Kalinagar Mahavidyalaya, Dr. Ishani Ghosh, and the IQSC coordinator, Dr. Subhashish Chatterjee, and obviously my friend Konkan Roy. So as the prescribed topic for me is correlation and regression analysis.
বলো। না তো ওইভাবেই তো আসলাম, বিরিয়ানি আনতে লাগতো।
Konkan, just can you confirm that whether you can see my screen or not, Konkan?
Yes, it is visible and audible.
Okay, thank you.
You can start.
So yeah, so as my topic is correlation and regression analysis in social science researches. Most of all, we know that this is the basic tools for any kind of research work. And basically, I have designed this class as a for the UG and PG courses students. I don't know whether it will helpful for the teachers or not, because here is so few the teachers means understandable for the students. So basically, if you see the correlation is what? It's the analysis of covariation between two or more variables. So we later on will discuss on these two terms, it's covariation and variation, because those who are from the statistical background or those who are from the geographical background, they all know that the standard deviation, the mean deviation, and the basic descriptive statistic we all know. But for the other students, maybe it's very difficult to understand these things. But I'm assuming that they all knows that the standard deviation, covariance, and variation. So there is a relation between these two, covariation, variation, and the correlation. Later on, we are going to discuss on this thing that how the correlation is related to covariation and variation in the when we try to calculate that correlation. Now, if we try to understand the correlation and coefficient, what is that? It basically the statistical measures for describing two or more variables. What kind of description it is? It is we try to find out whether is there any relation between these two variables or not. Suppose if we give one example that height and weight, right? If we try to establish a relationship that the height and weight into two variables, increasing with the height, the weight also increase, or increasing with the weight, height also increase. So, is there any relation on the basis of statistical test? Okay, so this kind of establishing the relationship we use the correlation. And if you see other some characteristics of the correlation coefficient, okay, the statistical quantifies the relationship between two variables, and that relationship will be either in positive or negative. Just a second. There is some network issue, so I just off my video. Now, in social science, so it gives us direct directions and the degree of correlation. So it gives two things. One is the direction, another is the degree of correlation. Direction, whether it is positive or negative, and the degree, it's depend on the value. Right? Now, what are the basic difference values in the correlation? The correlation value varies from -1 to +1. Okay. So from -1 to +1, this shows the degree of the relationship. So 1 plus means it's positive or negative, it shows the direction, and the association, how much the association between these two variables gives the degree of the relationship with the value which is indicating in the correlation coefficient. So the number of, if you see the sign indicates what the strength of the relationship. So how we are going to interpret that relationship? Suppose, as I said, the given examples with increasing height, weight also increase. If the value of this example for the given data, suppose 0.85, positive 0.85. So if it is plus, so it's showing what? It's a positive direction. And the value, it's giving the strength of the association. What kind of strength? Then normally we divide that value from 0 to 1 into various categories. Like, for example, if the value of the correlation coefficient is more than 80, means 0.8, or more than 0.9, so it's nearer to the 1. So 1 means it's perfect correlation. Perfect correlation. Okay. If it is nearer to 1, so the correlation between these two variables is strong. Suppose our example is again height and weight. So we have some data sets. If we try to compare the height and weight with this correlation, and our value is 0.95. So it's nearer to the 1. So if it is 1, then it's called perfect positive correlation. So it's nearer to 1. So we can divide in terms of the degree, right? Or to find out the strength of the relationship. So normally we divide the very strong relationship if it is more than 0.8. Okay? If the value is more than 0.8, then we call it's a strong relationship. So if the given variables, after analyzing the correlation, if the value is more than 0.8, so it's very strong relationship. So if it is 0.8 to 0.6, then we call it strong relationship. Then if it is less than 5, 0.5, then basically we don't take, in social science researches, we don't take this less than 0.5 correlation. We call it very low correlation, but there is, and if it is nearer to the 0, so we simply call there is no relation between the two variables. Okay, so 0 means there is no relationship between the variables, and if it is nearer to 0, then also suppose it's less than 0.2, then also there is no correlation between the variables. Although 0.5 is very low relationship, it's showing very low relationship. For a perfect relationships in the research, we mostly try to find out the relationship value or the correlation value is should be more than 7 or 8. Okay. So there are some other examples of the correlation, the association between the children's IQ and parents' IQ. So here, as I say, that there is basically two types of correlation. One is positive, another is negative. How we can find out the positive correlation? If one variable increase proportionally with increasing the corresponding variables. Suppose in case of the first example, children IQ and parents IQ. If parents IQ is higher, so basically we just consider that maybe the children's IQ also high. But for the statistical proof, if we do that correlation coefficient and we get the value more than 0.85, then we consider yes, that statement is correct, means there is a positive correlation between these two parameters or between two variables. Same way we can take other examples in case of the social sciences like urban growth and air quality. Okay, if the urban area is growing more or faster way, so obviously there will be the air quality, the deterioration of the air quality, the degradation of the environment. So there is this kind of examples we can take for the correlation coefficient. And what are the applicability of the correlation coefficient in the social sciences? The relationship studies, as I said, that we can easily find out the relationship between two variables. It can be in any kind of social sciences, education, economic, geography, economy, or political science. Anywhere we can use this kind of relationship. Like here, income and education. If we try to find out the relation between these two variables, okay. Then productive analysis, predictive analysis. Although the correlation does not give us the direct prediction, we can't predict on the basis of correlation only, because for prediction we use regression. Okay? But in correlation analysis, it can help us to understand a little bit of the prediction by the correlation coefficient. Then we can see that program evaluations, like those who are working on the different area of the social schemes implemented by the central government or state government. So this kind of schemes, whether it is fulfilled in the real ground or not, for the significant test of that, we can also use the correlation coefficient. And obviously the validity and viability of any kind of assessments. Like after our research work, we can easily try to prove our hypothesis. So that kind of hypothesis proving, we can validate through that correlation and coefficient. So types, there are again few types of the correlation coefficient: positive correlation and negative correlations, simple correlation, partial correlation, multiple correlation, and linear and non-linear correlation. So we just try to get some idea of this different kind of correlation, and then we try to analyze that correlation and the formula, how we can calculate the correlation with the given variables. So if you see the positive correlation is what? If we have two variables and one variable is increased proportionally to the corresponding variables, then it's called positive. As I said, with increasing, suppose the rainfall, the productivity is also increased. Okay, suppose if the rainfall is in And same way, the production, which is y variables, is also increasing from 20 to 40 to 60. Okay, so there is what in that there is a direct or proportional identical throughout the variables. The the changes of the variables is proportionally identical. So with increasing the value from 2 centimeter rainfall to the 4 centimeter rainfall, the productivity of the same land is increasing by double, means from 20,000 kilo to the 40,000 kilo. And for better understanding, we have given one simple scatter plot, which actually showing the same kind of correlations, okay, amount of the rainfall and the rice production. So this is an example of the correlation. But what is the correlation value? Suppose after analyzing this data, we get correlation value with 0.85. So in this diagram, we are just assuming one scatter plot with the line and the x and y variables, and this correlation's value is given, suppose 0.85 R value. So now, what this 0.85 value is indicating? This is indicating that there is a very strong relationship between these two variables. Suppose we can assume that x variables is our rainfall and y variables is our production. So if we compare or if we correlate this x and y variable, so our correlation value is 0.85, which is indicating there is a very strong relationship between these two variables. And as it is in positive plus sign, so we can say there is a positive, very strong and positive correlation between these two variables. Same way, if we try to see the negative correlation, the correlation between the two variables is said to be negative when one variable is increased and the corresponding variables is decreased. So suppose now it is with increasing the rainfall, the productivity is decreasing. Okay, then this type of correlation we can say that this is negative correlation. If you see this data and the scatter plot is what rainfall in same centimeter and the production is decreasing. For 2 centimeter rainfall is 80, and similarly it's decreasing, value is decreasing, so the value will remain negative. Okay, so this is called the negative correlation. And if we try to think that what will be the exact value for this kind of relationship, maybe for this will be the scatter plot. We can assume this will be the scatter plot from the given data for the x and y variables. And from here we can assume that the value is decreasing with increasing the x-axis. Okay, when we are going this direction, the value is what decreasing. So one hand y variable is increasing, on the other hand the x variable is decreasing. So it's showing the negative correlation. So this is the strength of the relationship, as I said earlier, that the value is showing the strength of the relationship. The plus sign and minus sign is showing the direction, whether the relation is positive or negative. It's giving us a direction. But the strength is of the relationship is depend on the values. Okay. Now here are there is 4 scatter diagram with the correlation value. So can we think that what interpretation we can make based on that scatter plot? The first one, the value is R value is 1. 1 means this is perfect, and if it is in plus sign, we can see this is in positive value. So this is what is exactly perfect positive correlation. And otherwise, we can try to understand by the scatter plot also. Why? If you see this correlation line or the line and the scatter value is exactly fitting on that line. So this means it's a perfect positive correlation. And second diagram, if we see the R value is 0.8, it's also indicating the positive correlation, but the that scatter plot is not exactly same with this. Okay, it's not exactly matched with this regulation or the line. So it's what there is a relationship, positive relationship, but it's not the perfect positive relationship. So we can say the degree of this value, like 0.85, is obviously less than 1. So this way we can say, we can interpret this diagram as strong positive correlation between these two variables. Suppose here is our x and y variables, so we can say there is a strong positive correlation, but not perfect correlation. But in case of this diagram, it is a perfect positive correlation. Same way, this is a very low correlation, means the value is 0.42. As I said, if it is less than 0.5, normally in research we don't consider this kind of correlation. It is nearer to 0, so there is actually no relationship. So R value is 0.17. So the relationship is there, but it's very negligible. So we consider there is no relation. Mostly in case of proving the hypothesis in research, this kind of correlation value is not going to work, or it's not going to prove your hypothesis. Okay. Hello, Kankan, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay.
Yes.
Then we come to the next one, a simple correlation. Simple correlation is involves what? It's simply study only two variables. If it involves only two variables, then it's called simple variables. But when we can see that diagrams, again, it can be divided into three positive called as simple correlations. Okay, this. And partial correlation is what? There will be the three variables, but one variables, it's not going to influence the other two variables. Like here we can see the examples of wheat, yield of wheat, amount of rainfall, and amount of the fertilizer. So out of these three variables, one variable will be the neutral, and other two variables will be playing the major role. So when we use this kind of correlation, perform this kind of correlation, then it considered as the partial correlations. And multi-correlation, we know that if the variables is more than 2 or more than 3, okay, then we call this multi-correlation. For example, the study of the relationship with the yield or the production of the wheat per acre, it's depend on the rainfall, it's depend on the fertilizers, or maybe it's depend on the other factors, maybe soil factors, soil moisture, everything we can compare. So this will be the example of the multi-correlation. And then again, it's linear or non-linear. Linear means if the amount of change between two variables is constant, then it's only called as linear. Okay? Means the change, the amount, suppose one variable is increasing from 1 to 2, and the next variables, the corresponding variables, is suppose increasing by 100 times. So from, suppose we can say the x-axis or the x variable is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the y variable is 100, 200, 300, 400. So with increasing one unit, there exactly in a constant rate, it's increasing 100. So this is called the linear correlation, when it's increased with the constant ratio. And curvilinear, or we can say the non-linear correlation, it's when the change, the amount of change is not constant in a constant ratio. Suppose both are increasing, but not in a same rate. Suppose the x-axis is 1, 2, 3, 4, and y-axis is 2, 5, then 7. Then, so interval is not same. The ratio, the changing ratio is not perfect. So it's not showing as a straight line. If you see the scatter diagram, it's not showing the straight line. It's showing the curvilinear line, a curved line. So this is called non-linear regression or curvilinear regression. If you see the diagrams, in this case, the scatter plot is showing, and if you see the lines, it's perfectly straight. But here it's curved. So the basic thing is the ratio of the changeable variables is not constant. So next is method of studying the correlations. What are the different method of correlation? Normally we study the by using scatter diagrams, curl Pearson coefficient, and rank correlation method. As I said, the scatter diagram is what, by scatter diagram, we try to find out the association between two variables, but in a visual form, in a visual forms, right? In case of the direct correlation method, we get the correlation value, we can find out the strength of the relationship or the direction of the relationship. But in case of the scatter diagram, we show the visual, and the visual interpretation is the most important. The clustering of the scatter plot, it's showing the result. Like here, in case of the scatter, from the scatter diagram, we can assume that there is a positive relation, but not so strong relationship. If we get the value, then we can get easily understand what are the score. But without the score, we can assume that whether the relationship is positive or negative, or the strong or not strong, we can means identify, but not exact, because exact value, for the exact value we may have to do the correlation analysis. So these are the some examples from where we can see the from the scatter plot how we can identify with which one is the perfect positive, perfect negative, or the high positive, high negative correlation. Means from without the value of the correlation, we can assume from the scatter plot that the relationship between these variables. Like first one is showing the perfect linear because all the scatter points is in the same direction, in a perfect positive line. If we draw a line, it will be fit exactly with the scatter plot. So perfect positive correlation. Second one, you can see this one is the perfect negative correlation. Here is the positive correlation, but the degree is low, association is low. Here is the negative, but its association low. Here is the high positive. How we can assume that this is the high and this is the low? We have to assume that the perfect positive line should be from the intersecting point of the x and y axis from here, and it goes like this directions. So if it is above this, so it is high positive. If it is nearer to this line, so it's positive, okay, or low positive. So this way we can assume from the scatter diagrams, and this too we can say there is no relationship between the, because if we try to draw a line in between the scatter plot, so it will not fit with either it's not in the positive side or negative side. So it's very difficult. So we can say there is no relation between these two variables if we can see this kind of scatter plot of the data. Now, the first thing I was studying with the definition of correlation is what? Correlation analysis, covariation between two and more variables. So now I'm studying again because to understand the correlation concept, we have to understand first the standard deviation, variation, and covariation. So in case of the variation, we see what? We see the differences from the standard deviation. Differences from the standard deviation, right? So, and in covariance, what we have seen, so the variance is statistic for describing the variation of a single variable. This is most important thing to remember. What? That variance is a statistic to describe the variation of a single variable. But in case of covariation, it describes the correspondence variable also. Okay, so in case of covariance, there will be two variables, and in case of variance, there will be one variable. So if you see the formula of variance and covariance, okay, if you see the formula for the variance is summation x minus x bar, and again multiplied by x minus x bar divided by n. N means number of observation. So x. Here is also x minus x bar, means what? There is the single value in case of the variance. And in case of covariance, you can see the formula summation y minus y bar and x minus x bar. So there is two variables, one is x and another is y. So there is the difference between variance and covariance. And how the covariance is related to the correlation that I'm going to explain. So variance is based on the square of deviation from the mean, okay, and covariance is based on the product of two set of the variation from the mean. So both is showing the deviation. Both are showing the square of the deviation from where? From the mean of a data set. Is it clear? So from the mean of a data set, covariation and variance both are fine. Now, if you see how it's related with the correlation, basically correlation is what covariance divided by the standard deviation of these two variables. Suppose we have variable x and y. So formula of that covariance, the correlation, you can see this formula R. R value is what? It's actually covariance divided by standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y. Okay, so if we simply do that standard deviation and if we try the standard deviation of x and y, you will get the correlation. And this is written in this kind of formula, okay, which is known as product movement correlation of Third-Pearson. If we compare this and this two formula, okay, earlier formula, if you see first the covariance formula is what? Summation x y minus summation y bar into summation x minus summation x bar by n. This is the if we put this covariance value, summation x, y minus y bar and summation x minus x bar, and the standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y. So we just put this value. So this will be the formula appears as the correlation. Okay. So basically, the definition of the correlation is what? It's a dividing the covariance if we divide it by the standard deviation of the two variables. Okay. I guess it's clear. Otherwise, I can explain once again this slide. Kankan, can you hear me? Hello. Okay. So I'm moving to the next part. Then how we can calculate that this correlation and coefficient. The formula used to interval data. So there is again two type of method I have seen. We have seen one is product movement correlation of coefficient and another one is Spearman rank correlation coefficient. So the product movement correlation coefficient normally we used during the interval data. Okay. And if there is any ratio data, then we have to choose the Spearman rank correlation coefficient. And these two formula, no, product movement correlation or the and the Spearman rank correlation, these are not new concept. This is discovered in the 1910. Like Spearman or the Third-Pearson gave this formula during 1911. But at present in today's world also it's very important for the social science research. For this, not only in social science, even science people also use. Basically, the Third-Pearson was the biostatistician and mathematician. So he used this product movement correlation during his research work with the specimen copy with the different kind of species or in the biological studies. But now we are using in social science also, because this is the one of the best, simplest method to prove our hypothesis. And this formula is known as Spearman rank correlation formula. So 1 minus summation d square by n cube minus n. So here you can see the rank d1 is the difference in rank between the ith pair of the ranks. So we are going to discuss this thing in details in next slide. So if you see that Third-Pearson coefficient formula, this is the simplified formula of that previous formula. Okay, this is the actual formula of the Third-Pearson or the correlation. And if we simplify, because here all the x and y variables is written as the capital X and capital Y, but in the simplified formula, this all are the small x and small y. So small x equals to what? Capital X minus x bar, and small y equals to y minus y bar. So if we simplify this formula, it comes like, we can write like this: summation xy by root over summation x squared plus summation y squared. So here R is the product movement correlation coefficient, and deviation taken from the x series from the mean, and y is the deviation from the y series of the mean, because we know y bar is the mean and x is the uh, mid value of that data series. Now we have I have one data here for the calculating the Pearson correlation coefficient, where the fertilizer use in 100 kgs x-axis and crop production for the y-axis. So based on the formula, we have to analyze this first. Like I have designed this, as I said, for the UG and PG courses. So I have shown all this kind of slide here, so they can easily calculate and find out the value of the product movement correlation, and then they can try to interpret. Okay. So I'm just keep showing this thing once. So this is small x, which is x minus x bar, y minus y bar. This is the small y, and this is the small x square, small y square, and this is small x and small y, multiplication of small x and small y. So if we try to solve this equation, this problem, you can see these all are the values, summation x square. I'm not going to say all details. Just this, if you know this formula and if you have this value, so you can easily find out the rank coefficient of correlation. Just simply you have to put this value, summation x, y, summation small x, and summation this value you have to calculate. So 43 divided by lower 32 into this. So if you calculate, you will get easily 0.896. The most important thing is not the calculation point. Most important thing is to interpret that value. So you will get the value after your two variables. Whatever variable you will try to compare, after comparing, after calculating, obviously you will get some value, right? So the most important part is how you are going to interpret that value. So as it is in positive, so we know that, and the value is 0.896. So which indicates what? It's a positive correlation, and the association, if you see, the strength of the relationship, if you see, this is what? It's strong relation, strong positive relation. Why? As I said, the value, if it's more than 0.8, we can consider it's a very strong correlation. So from this interpretation, from this value, we have to interpret that the relationship between x and y variables, in case of this, it's fertilizer used or maybe the production of the crop, is showing what? Very high positive or correlation between two the variables, as the R value is 0.896. Okay. So this way we have to interpret, and then only it will be giving the support for our the hypothesis if we choose any kind of hypothesis in our research. And next one is the Spearman rank correlation. Again, if you same thing, if you know the formula and if you have the data, calculation part is very easy. But the same important thing is your interpretation here also. But the basic difference is for the Spearman and the Culbertson is what? If you have the interval data, you have to choose what? You have to choose the Pearson method. If you have ordinal data, then you have to choose Spearman rank correlation. So here, if you see the formula is what? Summation t square is what? Difference of ranking. Now, as it is ordinal data, so we have to see the differences of ranking. And the total number of the data is previous variable. So this is n means the total number of observation in the field. Here you have to see some kind of the calculation part. First, maybe you have that kind of normal data. Then if they give, mostly from the student perspective, if it is in syllabus, so they can try to think that if the whole number of data is given, then they have to convert it into the ratio form. Or if directly ratio is given, then they have no need to convert into the ratio form. So average monthly temperature in degrees Celsius and electricity bill in rupees. So you can see 38, 29, 25, 21. So it's not in a perfect rank. So first thing, in the Spearman, we have to arrange the rank according to the rank. So in next slide, you can see the ranking of the data. So we are giving the highest rank for the highest value, the lowest rank for the highest rank. The rank 1, okay, rank 1 is given for 43, okay, which is the highest value, 43. Then 41 for the second highest. So this way we have to give the rank for entire data set. Okay. Then we have to see the difference between the ranks. Like for the first one, rank 1 is 3 and rank 2 is 4. So what will be the difference? 3 minus 4. Okay. You can see it's minus 1. 3 minus 4 is minus 1. And 5 minus 5 is 0. 7 minus 7 is 0. 8 minus 8 is 0. 4 minus 3 is 1. So this way we have to find out the differences. And then difference square. So here you can see the difference square is 1 and 1. So if you add this, if you find out the summation of this square is 2. Now simply you can put this value in this formula. Okay, 6 total number of observation. 6 is here, and summation t square is 2, and total number of pair is 8. So 8 cube minus 8. If you try to calculate it, you can easily get the correlation value. It's 0.98. So what this value indicating? It's indicating there is a positive, strong positive. It's near to the perfect positive. If it is 1 plus 1, then we can say it's perfect positive. But it's very, very strong positive correlation between what? The temperatures, increasing the temperature and the electricity bill. Because we know then the part of our interpretation, then we have to interpret what? Due to the temperature, we use more electric appliances like AC, fan, then the electricity bill also goes high. So this is the other side of the story of the research. Okay? Not only interpreting the result, but we have to think beyond that. What is the factor for this kind of correlation, right? So there is another calculation for the rank correlation if there is equal rank. So I'm just saying only one thing. If there is equal rank, then we have to divide that rank. We have to add this two rank and divide into same ranks. Like here, first one is rank 1, second one is 2, and then third one. Okay, if you see the third, 20, 22, and 23. So 23 and 23, both are the same. Okay, so in this case, you have to do what? Simply add the third and fourth rank. So 3, if you add 3 plus 4 is what? 7. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So you can see for 23, we have given 3.5, and again for 23, we have given 3.5 rank. So this is the basic difference between the equal ranks method. Okay, so we have to distribute the ranks this way. And what will be the next rank? So 3 and 4 is gone. So next rank will be the 5. So you can see after 23, 24 is the next rank. So this rank is given as 5. So there is no 3 and 4 rank in the rank data. There is no 3 and 4 rank because we have had this 2, 3 and 4 and divide by 2. So 3.5 rank is given for 23 and 3.5 we are given is for the 23. And next rank will be starting from the 5 because 3 and 4 rank has gone. Okay. And after 5, there is 6 rank. You can see for 28, we have given 6 rank. For 28, 6. And then after 6, there will be 7 rank, right? Again, you can see 30, 30. There is 230. So we have to again add this 2 rank. So after 6, it will be 7 and there was 8. So 7 plus 8 is 15. So if we divide by 2, then it will be 7.5 and 7.5. So this way we have to distribute if we have the equal rank. Maybe instead of 2 rank, we can have 3 same number, right? So then also we have to do the same way. We have to add the same 3 ranks, then divide by 3. And then we have to give the ranks. And rest of the things is very similar to the previous one, right? Like rank 1 minus rank 2 t square, then formula also almost same. The slight difference is there. How many repeated rank is there? You have to write this formula in that many times. Like here it's repeating once and twice. So and here it's repeating once. So total is thrice this rank is repeated. So this formula 1 by 12 m cube by m1 write 3 times because your rank is repeated in thrice here. See 3.5, 3.5 once, 7.5, 7.5 twice, and 1.5 twice. So this value, this thing you have to repeat 3 times, and rest all are the same, right? Any doubt or any question? Anyone? Otherwise, I will move to the next part.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, we are giving rank here from lowest number. So can't
Yeah.
we rank?
Yeah,
Can't we rank the
yes,
number from the highest one?
yes. That we can.
That can be done. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Sir, one more thing. When you have said that variance is the square of or standard deviation.
No, it's standard deviation. I said that variance we find out on the basis of what? Mean.
Okay. Okay, sir. Right. Okay.
Okay. So then I'm moving to the next. You can say similar, but there is a basic difference between these two things. What here also we are using the two or more variables to find out the association, right? But the most important thing in case of regression is what we can predict the value. And another thing is dependent value. But in case of the correlation, there is no such kind of dependent and independent variable. Suppose if you have two variables, you can just run in Excel, you will get the value, right? And another thing in case of the regression is there should be a logical relation between these two variables, like logical relation. Suppose in case of correlation, if you take any brain capacity is increased or IQ level is increased, right? So, is there any logical relation between the increasing height and the capacity of the brain or IQ level? Obviously, no. There is no logical relation. But if you have the data set, if you run either on SPSS or in Excel, or if you calculate, right, you will the relation between two variables. There must be one independent and one dependent variables. Then only you will get the regression results. Okay, the regression results. So there is the basic difference between the regression and correlation. Otherwise, it's same. We also try to see the association between two variables or more variables. We try to see their we want to predict the future, right? Suppose land price, what is present, we want to predict in the after what will be the price of the same land after 10 years. So we can't predict that thing in the correlation analysis, but in the regression we can predict it. Okay? So it describes the relation between two or more variables, the relationship between x there is independent variables, and there should be a logical relation between these two things. So again, the same like correlation. We want first. I will try to explain you the regression from the basic. So before starting this regression, dependent variable, independent variables, and this regression line, I'm just trying to mathematical concept of the regression, from where that regression is basically developed or the mathematical equation is come, right? So for this slide, you can see H means H equals to 150D. This is an example of mathematical model of equation. Okay, regression equation model. It's simple written. H equals to 250D, where H represents what? Area. We try to explain in this way from that particular island. Okay, the distance from the coast, the height, we try to find out the altitude. Okay, in this expression we refer some of kinds of functions. In case of altitudes, it's function and distance from the coast. Just simply by H, it's dependent on it's a dependent variable, and distance is independent. We are considering, we can take other ones also. The dependent variable is what? Altitude, and independent variable is what? Distance. So altitude, it's depend on distance. So if the distance is increased, formula. Consider the following location. If we think that there is for this kind of function we have, right? Number one, if the height is 0 feet and distance is 0. Okay. Second, this is the value for the fourth location of the same island. The first location value is height is 0 feet and distance is 0 miles. So it's on the coast. Second thing is what? Height is 250 feet and distance is 1 mile. Third location is height is not 5,000, it will be 500. So 500 feet and distance is 2 miles. Okay. Again, then fourth location is what? 700 feet and the distance is 3 miles. So if we try to plot this thing on a graph, right, to try to understand this thing clearly, you can see the value is 0 here. Okay, value is 0 here. First location, height is 0, distance is also 0. So in the first location, both are 0. Second location, which is 1 mile away from the coast, the altitude is what? 200 and 250. One mile away from the coast. Second location, third location is what? 500 feet. This is what? 2 miles away from the coast. And third one is, or the fourth location is 750 feet altitude. Altitude is 750 feet and it's 3 miles away from the. We can write this formula. V equals to 250D, right? So here the slope is that value is increasing in a constant value. See 250, 250, 250. So we call this I will show you in the regression formula. It's called A, small a and small b. That small b, right, it's showing what? The slope of the regression line. So this is exactly what the small a in regression formula. Just I'm trying to show you the formula first. You can see here y equals to a plus bx. So this a is the intercept and b is the gradient. Okay. This diagram. So here the degree, the gradient of this line, of this regression line, you can say degree is what? It's increasing to 250, 250, 250. So this is the gradient because it's moving in a, it's increasing in a constant value. Next thing, if I try to give you another example, so there is two things basically. One, from the intercept. Intercept point of the both variables are zero. So this is intercept for this case. And the gradient is 250 feet, which increase 250 unit upward for each 1 unit or 1 mile to site. So with increase feet. So this is the gradient of slope and zero is the intercept value. So same way, if we know these two things, that A and B value, right? In regression, you just plus Bx and we try to find out the A and B value first. If we know the A and B value, then we can easily predict the rest of the values, right? So we have to very clear on that what is the A very clear. Then only you can easily understand the other regression. Okay, so here in case of my example, A is 0 and B is 250 feet. So this is our expression 0 plus 250D. Okay, in case of 0, if we can write A and 250, we can write B, right? And instead of D, this we can write y equals to A plus Bx. Because we know the A and B value. A is 0 and B is 250. If we know this A and B means intersect and gradient, we can easily predict the or for the 3 mile distance, it's 750. So we can easily calculate for the 4 mile distance from the coast what will be the altitude of that place, right? We can easily predict, right? The 4 mile distance from the coast, so altitude will be 1,000 feet. This regression form. Okay. Hello, is it clear?
Yes, yes. Hello. Vishwajit sir, you are not audible right now. Are you trying to speak something? Speaking? I think there is some problem. He is right now left. Uh, participants internet connections. You will join right now only. Till then, we have to wait for some time.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. No problem.
Yes, yes.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, we can simply with a simple example instead of age. So if we replace that age height into x variable, y variables, and the d means distance into the x variables, so we can express in the simple regression formula. Later on, we can see the to try to understand the prediction whether we can predict from these two diagrams. Like in this case of the regression line. Intercept value is 1 and b value is 0.5. So whatever x we have, suppose now it's 6. If we try to find out the value for the 8, instead of suppose if this is 6 mile, so instead of 8 mile, what will be the value for the y? So this starting point of this line. So this is called intercept as A. And in the second diagram, you can see the intercept value is where here. So this is 0 and in y-axis, this is -1. So here you can see the intercept value. So A is -1 and B is 0.5. So this type of regression line will draw if we use this kind of as 1, we can write 0.5x minus 1. Okay. So these are the few examples of the regression lines. Now if you see the application of the regression, it helps to formulate and determine the function of relation between two or more variables. As I said, that we can predict, we can estimate dependent and independent variables. It can be vice versa. Like we can find out in suppose here we are assuming that distance is the x variable and high altitude is the y variable. If you want to change these variables, so the regression analysis will be the value will be different because it's depend on your research work. No? Which variable you want to you see how we can use this regression analysis in the social sciences like economic studies. We can compare with the variables like GDP, inflation, unemployment rate, right, interest rate. We can compare with this kind of variables in our economic studies. We can in education the student, okay, economic status and the educational status of the student. So this way we can use the regression in economic studies, in education research, in social psychology, sociology, right, political science, everywhere in all the field of our social science. It's this is also I have mentioned that the basic difference of the correlation and regression. One is the degree and nature of the relationship, as the correlation only give you the degree and relationship, but in the regression it will show the prediction, right? We can predict, and the cause-effect relationship also. Like in correlation, it gives you only the value relationship, right? cause-effect relationship between the variables. As I said, with increasing the height, brain capacity will increase. There is no causal or the cause-effect relation between two variables, but that variables give you some values, right? If you want, you can interpret it that values, but this is not logically correct. So sometimes if the variation, if the value is there, if the correlation, the value is there, but there is no logical relation, right? But in case of the regression, there should be a logical relation between the variables, and dependent and independent variables should be identified first. Then only you have to perform the. This is most important in case of regression. Because correlation we can't predict, but in regression we can predict, right, or estimate. Okay. So there are some other method for the regression, graphical method, algebraic method, right? And out of this method, the best common method is the least square method. This is the formula of the deviation between the suggested curve line and the data points, right? Suggested curve lines and the data points. It's try to show the differences. And best fit means we try to fit a line along the scattered diagrams, which is the perfectly, or the position of that line is the best. And how we determine by this least square method. In this case, it's the deviation may be measured in terms of horizontal deviation for the x-axis and vertical deviation from the y-axis, right? If I have any data, okay, here you can see this. Now we try to understand this. This is the deviation. This error is the deviation from the horizontal axis and the vertical axis, right? In case of this point, if we try to how far from this best fitted line it is. So if you try to join here, this much is the distance. If you measure it, maybe 0.2 centimeter. So there 2 centimeter error. Horizontal axis from this point, okay. And then what we do in the least square method, deviation below the curve line, negative curve are negative and above the curve line are positive. Those who are below that line is negative and above are the positive one. So first we do what? We square this deviation and then sum of the deviation. The simple thing is what? We try to produce a very simple index, right, for assessing the particular curves. So it behaves like that. If your value or index value is smaller, okay, so it's better for the curve line. So means at this point error is much. So this much we try to find out the deviation from the entire data set, and then we try to square it, and then we find out one index, right? And if the index value is very less, so it means it's exactly fitted along that line. So this way we try to find out the least square method. We find out simple. The thing is simple. First we have to find the deviation, then we have to square the deviation, and then we have to sum the. So the line will be the best fitted along the scattered plot. This is the basic concept of the, you can say, the least square method. If you see the formula for the least square method, okay, here you can write in both way. Like in previous, I have shown you x, y equals to a plus bx. Here I'm showing x equals to a plus by. Why? Because we can, if you want to change the dependent and independent variable, x on y. So if your x on y means if x is your independent and y is your sorry, x is independent, dependent and y is independent, then you can write in this expression x is dependent and y is independent variables. So in this case, you can write y on x is expressed as y as a plus y equals to a plus bx, right? So to take as a independent and which variable you want to take as a dependent variables. So this is the simplest forms, and for y equals to bx, if y on x, right? If we select y as a dependent and x is an independent, so this type of equation is known as y on x. In this too, we have to find out means the a intercept and b is gradient value, because we know if we can find out the a and b value, we can easily find out the other values, right? We can easily predict all the x, we can easily predict all y, and we can predict the yc value for drawing the best fit line, right? For drawing the best fit line. So for this we need we have to solve these two other formulas plus b summation x. So we have to find out b and a, right? And summation xy equals to a summation x plus b summation y, x square. So these are the two other formula which is needed for find out a and b, intercept and gradient. So for this, if you have this kind of data x and y series, so what you need actually x summation x, x and solution x square, the summation of x and y, this x square is 142, y square is 207. If you know the formula, it's very simple to calculate. Calculation is not much, but the basic understanding should be there. What is a and b? X and y is already given. So for that value, you have to put in that equation. So you can say this is the equation number 1. In the equation 1, we get this, and the equation 2, we get this. But for doing the mathematical calculation, we have to keep the same, like here it's 5 and here is 12. So a and a, both a and we try to find out the b. So first we omit that a. So for that, we have to multiply, right? So second number, in this case, we are multiplying number 1 equation with 12 and number 2 equation by 5. So in both the equation will be 60a and 16. So we can easily get the b value after solving this. So if we try to solve it, we will get a value as 0.66 and b value is 1.07. So what will be the equation, the regression equation, right? In the regression equation y on x, we will get y equals to 0.66 plus 1.07x. So this is our expression. This is our final regression equation expression. We need this equation, and if you want to find out the yc, so you have to put the all x's value here. Whatever x value you have, you can plot the yc value, and based on that yc, you can draw the best fit line. Okay, so this is the basic thing. And same way, if you want to show the, if you want to change the your a value is what, 0.66, here you can see your a value is 49, and here b value is what, 1.07, and in this case your b value is 0.74. So obviously the expression will be different, and you can it will be x on y. X on y is what? X equals to 0.49 plus 0.7y. So now if you want try to find out all the y values or yc values, just instead of y value, you have to put the one individual value, and so thank you. This is the total presentation. Hello, Kalkar.
হ্যাঁ, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bishwajit Das, for your nice presentation. Queries, please, you can discuss right now.
Thank you, sir, for such a nice statistical presentation. And you said that you are discussing for UG, PG students, but I think that this is have any questions, sir. I have a curiosity to ask. That you said that there is a sharp differences between correlation and regression, like in terms of analysis of cause effect or predictability, whatever. Sir, I want to ask you that in case of quantitative research, when to use correlation and
Your question is when we can use this to statistics, right?
yes, when correlation and when regression.
See, it's again, I already discussed this thing in the lecture that it's totally depend on your in some cases, not the prediction or not the predictability of the data. Like
Hmm.
if you are doing on a urban land use pattern, like I'm giving the geography example. Right? So if you want to see the how to see the
Yes.
prediction
Hmm.
of the near future, what will be the price of the land in that particular area. So obviously you have to
Okay.
do the regression. But if you want to
Okay.
see only the relation, whether these two variables, is there any relationship or not? Or is
Hmm.
there any association or not? Then you have to choose only correlation. Like simple
Okay.
correlation. So you will try to use that.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
One question from chat box, please.
Sir, could you kindly answer the question, sir?
There is one question.
Yeah.
It is written as if I want to know the effect of an independent variable on dependent variables, do I use regression analysis when the sampling method is purposive?
Obviously, we will use the
Whether it
regression
can be
analysis.
used or
Yes,
not? Yes,
we
it
can
can be
use.
used, no? We have another session at 3:30. So,
কঙ্কন স্যার চ্যাট বক্সে
হ্যাঁ
একটা কোয়েশ্চেন আছে
হ্যাঁ ওটা হয়েছে।
ওকে ওকে
Presentation. Actually, these statistical techniques, correlation and regression analysis, is widely used in social science research in present days. And the relation between different phenomena related with the human phenomena, social phenomena. So we often require to understanding the certainty and the degree to which variables show a mutual association. So in this regard, your and its uses in different uh, different social science phenomena, and you nicely uh, give some examples also, have a clear understanding of the facts in our works. So thank you very much for this presentation, sir. I know that you have many odd things in the place where you are right now. So in spite of all these things you presented, you have managed these times. Thanks all participants also for their active participation in this session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pankaj.
Yes.
And don't
Yes.
say sir, no. Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you very much, sir. Now, our next resource person, Dr. Kaushik Chatterjee, sir, already with us. Welcome, sir. I would
Thank you.
like
Welcome.
you, moderator, please proceed. Our faculty members and Kalinagar College's faculty member also with us. Please,
Yes.
sir.
Welcome everyone to this session. Now I would like to introduce you the Dr. Kaushik Chatterjee. Outlet, Kolkata under WBU 70PA. Dr. Kaushik Chatterjee graduated in chemistry from RK Mission Vidya Mandir, Belur Math. He was completed his post-graduation from Pillani University and MPhil PhD from University of Calcutta in Science Technology. IGNOU as programming search. He was associated with University of Calcutta. He is also associated with various boards and school education, Government of West Bengal as expert members. Welcome, sir, and thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all of you.
Yes.
It is audible? Audible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I just convey my this is a nice opportunity to give you to chance to discuss about the research in social science. As basically today I am discussing about the research, especially in the social science, because you have already known that there is a natural science and the social science. Have some differentiate. I think there is a no difference. Some of the technicalities there is a difference. The similarities is now. So my discussion I am concentrating that is the social science research. What are the purpose of the social science research in our societies is now? Because of that, the social science research is more important tools to understand how society functions each other. Actually, the natural science, there is also a contribution in our research and national development But social science is an important tool that influence for the formulation of the legislation and policies, schemes, and programs on socio-economic issues. Say for in our country, if the literacy rate is average or minimum, or some of the lack of the illiteracy due to the some social issues now, that it is reflected in our economical development as well. We know so low level of our employment and also the lower economic incomes. And for this reason, there is an important social issues in our country that is reflected in our educational system. That is the most important concept is the dropout. And obviously, there is a tendency to send their children to work in our society. For this reason, the social science research deals with social phenomena and attitudes of human being as a member of a society after different circumstances and situations. So say today and why social science researchers think about quality of social science research. And social science research is a method of inquiry to gain further knowledge or enhance the existing behavior. It deals with the social phenomena. It deals with the attitudes of our society. So it is the important to understand issues of human concerns. Why I'm talking? Because it is purely related with the social science research is more important, and it is not easy question to answer that every level we're thinking about the social science research. Obviously, we are good explanation to unexplained social phenomena. That so many unexplained social phenomena, there is a doubt, there is a misconception, that is the misconceived fact in our social is essential to understand issues of human concerns. Social science research is useful for formulation of legislations, policies, schemes, and programs. Like when we are talking about the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, if we're talking with the RMSA, that everything it is based on the formulation of the legislations and policies and the schemes and any other programs that is. science research as well as social science research is run parallelly. Most of the research pertaining to the natural science is completely different from the social science research in terms of their entire approach, purely experimental in nature. And natural science research is mainly scientific, and such research also involves huge cost as well. In contrary, the social science research is between the human beings in a social setup. And we are always doing our social science research is based on the survey, interview, focus group discussion, and obviously some of the social science research is experimental research also. But everything it is beneficiaries are our school system, our students, our children, our society. So in this point, of the application and experimentation purely based on scientific tools. But whereas the social science research, we usually use the survey method, historical, philosophical, and there basically, if we think that social science research is based on human behavior and the interrelationship between human beings in our social setup. So, I am more emphasized then it is difficult to formulation of the legislations, policies, schemes, and other parts also. So upon the views, we are discussing the various approaches that had been adopted for the different methods we are used in our social science research. Anyone, can you tell me the different approaches or the methods we can use in the social science research is now? Does anyone, can you tell me the different methods we are using in the social science research? I am now fine.
Sir, 2004 মানে 2004 বিএড ব্যাচ, তারপর স্যার আপনার ক্লাস করবার আজকে এত বছর বাদে আবার সুযোগ হলো।
Thank you for your joining in these classes now. But can you tell me, share you the different types of the researches now?
In qualitative, quantitative research.
That is the confusing is now. That is the qualitative and quantitative research is the two types of research, but different methods of research as the obviously historical, descriptive type of research, case study, and research is the historical, descriptive, case study, and obviously different types of research. But there is a two other types of research. One is the qualitative research and another is the quantitative research. Can you tell me about the qualitative research and the quantitative research?
Sir, the use of statistical analysis generally is being done in quantitative research, and when we don't use the statistical analysis, we can call it as a qualitative research. Statistical techniques of quantifying the data, then we can say that that can be termed as a qualitative research.
But in the
Why,
descriptive
sir?
side, there is the
Yes.
then then is any idea?
No, sir. You please explain, sir.
Okay, I will explain, obviously, but I will give you some feedback. That when we are considering the which one is the data, it is based on the data, then we can assess that what are the qualitative research or quantitative research. Actually, for mainly for the exploratory purpose, when we are explore the any data and based on the qualitative research. And when we are obtain the descriptive data, then it is a quantitative research. Actually, the qualitative research inquired the informal and it is need for the very carefully planned and tightly controlled situation is required. But when we are taking the analysis of the data, then we are more confused which data and how we are analyze it is qualitative extent correct, then qualitative findings, it is rarely expressed in statistical forms. But quantitative findings are expressed in number and can be analyzed using the statistical part and also the statistical evidence. But it is rarely we can use it now. But when we are thinking about the quantitative research, then analyzing using the statistical techniques also now. Because research, it is based on the large number of the respondents, and obviously you are taking the data from the each person individually also. So analysis and conclusion, when we are talking about skills, is the more important part for the qualitative research and the quantitative research. So when we are talking about the social science research, it is basically based on the data which we are used in our research work is now. Research is now. Can you understand, Vishwarjo?
Yes, sir. Definitely. Thank you, sir.
Is any other? And then we are talking about the social science research is basically, it is the different approaches, that is the historical research, is the experimental research also a important part in our social science research. So first, are we discussing about the historical research, because I follow your workshops schedules. And philosophical research is an important part of your discussion during this workshop. So I concentrate more on that part, that historical research and the social science and philosophical research. Obviously, we are not talking more about the experimental researches now. Actually, then when we are thinking or we are conducting any social science research, then the research perspective is the most important part. And this perspective is now history was never alike at different points of time. Because when we are thinking about the development of ICT, means information communication technology or educational technology, that there is a different phase. And obviously, this phase is another aspect, but the development of educational technology or evaluation of the educational technology is the most important part for the research perspectives also. Same thing. When doing our science research also, it is also an important part as a research perspectives. And obviously, history of mathematics, the Vedic mathematics, and others mathematics, as well as the most important in the social aspect. Simply, it is implied made history, geography, political science, philosophy. No, that as a science, you also doing the historical research that will help you for the methodology that will help to different approaches is used in the classroom settings also. Because nowadays it is accepted that the past effects, that it is also influence our present life also. So history has that is origin, growth, and over a period of time. So this is the most important part of the historical research, that also area in our for the conducting the historical research. We have identified the need for knowledge about the historical background of that area. Usually, when we are formatting our research format, then is the most important part of the background of the research. Background of the research means rationality of the research and significance of the research. Historical background of the area. It is not in the social science. It is as well as the natural science also. I feel it, I believe it. And gathering a such as possible, if we collect the relevant facts and findings from the history of that topic, that helpful, that is strength any research. So I am not talking about the historical methods of research, but in the social science also, there is an important part for the historical approaches of the hypothesis, that also relationship between the historical facts and explain the, obviously that is a tentative relation, because in social science is the relative, because your findings and other findings, in some extent it is different, because your opinion and their opinions are the different in the different situation and different. We are talking about the situation, we are talking about the circumstances. So for this reason, there is a no absolute findings we cannot describe in this type of research now. This historical approach, it is a rigorous collection and organization of evidence and the verification of the authenticity of the information and its sources. Because when some of the present web did giving our conclusion that obviously we are organize our evidence and verification of that authenticity information and its source to the historical. So selection, organization, analyzing of the most pertinent collected evidence and drawing of the conclusions of the social science issues, then historical full conclusion, meaningful manner, that always we keep in mind record, that the recording of my documentation, the recording of that findings, it is using the GPS pictorial documentation, that everywhere when you are giving the documentation, that everybody will asking that give you the GPS documentation. Means this is the documentation, that is the recording. That is the verification authenticity of that data. When it is the meaningful, then the documentation is the essential part for the social science researchers now. So for this reason, the social science, there is both quantitative and as well as the qualitative data can be used for the historical research. I think everybody will understand what I am telling. Is any doubt? You may ask any questions now. Is there any doubt? I think there is no doubt. So I can continue with this another part. It is the descriptive part. That is the social science research. That is used for the obtain information about the current status of the research issues in question. And mostly in our research, social science research, we follow the descriptive type of descriptive type of research, that some of the steps we follow, that is the most important step is the statement of the problem. And when we are giving the statement of the problem, then identification of information needed to solve that problem. For gathering the information, that instrument nowadays we are used as a terms as the tools. Say, for example, we are preparing the interview schedule, we are preparing the questionnaires, we are preparing the instrumental instruments we use for the gathering the information. And when we are thinking about the instrument, the next step it is that to whom we can apply it is now. Then obviously the identification of the target, you know about this, that the target is the population, and obvious so descriptive approach that should be the follow the some scientific steps, and these steps are so many scientific, logical sequence. And this most important part in the social science research is construction of the tools. If you are not careful about the construction of your tools, I am not giving the much idea about the construction about the tools. Cautious about the construction of the tools, then the data which will collect in future, that is not reflected your judgment based on that data. So when you are thinking about the construction of the tool, be careful for this construction of that tools now. And obviously, familiarly we are note that the methodology or the research design, we collect the information, and how will the information be collected? And after that is the analysis of the information, and from that analysis of the information, we come to the conclusion that will be used to solve your problem. So steps of the any descriptive survey type of steps, because framing of the structure, organization is more important for the descriptive type of the research is now. To solve the problem, selection or development of instruments for gathering the information, identification of target population, and determination of the analysis of information, and obviously from that information we come to the conclusion which can be used to solve our problem now. In descriptive research, we use as a survey type of research. So descriptive approach is also based on survey studies. Can you give different type of name of the survey? Any idea? Different types of survey? Different types of survey? Which are used in our descriptive research. Actually, the popular terms we are used as a descriptive survey type of method. But we is obviously another method. So there is a different type of the survey research also. That is akin with the historical research also. Thinking about the research is interrelated, multidisciplinary approach. And they're thinking also the different research when we are conducting, that is the different multidisciplinary in approach now. Say for example, that every survey type of research, when we are at the people or the situation, it is based on the characteristics of the population. Then we can tell that it is based on the school, because basically social science research in our educational field, that is based on the school survey. Then obviously when we are gathered data from the school system, then it is a character. Say for example, when we are thinking about the job profile, say for example, that the training program. Recently, I conducted one type of research that is conducted by the government to give the different training in West Bengal school teachers now. And after that, training is effective or not, then obviously it is not a school survey. That is the impact of the in-service training. In-service means those are got during the in-service, they are got that training. Say for example, that you are joining in the research methodology. Some of they are joining as the in-service teachers, some of the pre-service also. But you are getting the research methodology in-service training. Then after the workshop is were attending this workshop, their quality of research is better than those are not attending this type of workshop, their quality is better. So obviously, it is also a survey. But this survey, it is based on means it is the gathering information to use the structure and training program. a particular job. So there is a big questions because I belong to the teachers training program. So obviously there is a big questions after the getting the B.Ed degree, their quality will increase or not. That obviously it is also a survey type of research, but it is based on the job analysis. So this is also another type of the survey research that is apart from the school survey. School and their analyze, it is basically is the school survey. Another type of the survey it is now documentary analysis. Obviously, it is closely akin with the historical research, deals with the documenting present situation. So if we're thinking about the quality of the research that is submitted all of the university and their quality is good or it need for the improvement. Type of research is the meta-analysis. Meta-analysis means research of the research article, research of the PhD thesis, research of the dissertation. If we will find that the quality of the research that meta-analysis, then it is also a one type of documentary survey, and this is also a documentary analysis. So this is the important part of the social science research also. And obviously, that is the enhanced decision-making process by the government official. Say, for example, that is the popular concept it is now in nowadays, that is NEP 2020, CBCS system. But when taking the survey from the different stakeholder, then we're getting the different findings. Then after the government will formulation their policy, legislation, and the rules and laws in our social science research also. Now I am talking with these community surveys also. So social science research is the most important part. Another important part is the community. Say for it is obviously some will tell it is the sociological approach, some will tell it is the anthropological approach. But when we are thinking about the community survey, that internal and external characteristics of the community, that is strengthened of our and this type of research, because I try to establish is now that apart from the historical research, the descriptive approach is also a interrelationship studies. relationship facts obtained from deeper insight outlook of the social science research. When you are thinking that you are the social scientist, then as a researcher, you have a responsibility that true reflection of the society should be reflected. That's help for the society, that help for the human being to come into the conclusions. And another important part is now, when you are in-depth study of the social science research is now, that we're thinking about the case study. This is the most important part is the case study. Depth into the individual situation or personality and recommending the corrective measures now. So when we are thinking about the social science research, so we are thinking about the different approaches we are used in our research work is now. The case study, it studies a unit or visually impaired, mentally retarded, or any other community. It's a think is a unit. It is think as an individual. It undertakes as an in-depth study. Obviously, that reflection of the whole qualitative characters highlights the qualitative aspects of the case by going deep into the issue of the concern. This is my precaution to all the social scientists, researchers, because your findings, your identification, your issues, it is the very, very important for the society, because case study is a method of exploring and analyzing the life of this single social unit, be it a person, a family, as an institution, cultural group, or even entire single community. Being studied only for the social science research. So case study is the most important method, qualitative in character, and it highlights the qualitative aspects of the cases by giving the deep into the issue of the concerns. Behavior, what you observe, that is important part, that demanding by our societies also. And it is obviously, when we are talking with the social science, we never neglecting the experimental research. Because when I start in one aspect is different, that is the experimental findings. Natural science is based on the experiment, but now we also claim that social science also experimental research approach involves. And it is also helpful for our society. It is effective for the educational development, and it is enough for the quality of teaching, learning process. So experiment approach to research and experimental unit. The control unit means there is no external intervention. So it is a very controlled situation. When using our laboratory works also, then also we are thinking about the laboratory conditions also. That the preparation of the hydrogens, then we are considering some of the control situation, that catalyst is required, that the temperature is required. When we are conducting any experimental research, in experimental setup, that no external intervention is effect of that groups now. So this is known as the control unit, and another it is the experimental unit. That unit we can experimental research is undertaken to assess the impact of that intervention. Say for example, that is the government policy. It is run in our school system, that constructivist approach is effective or not. Then we can doing the descriptive survey method. But you will go to the real classroom situation, real classroom transaction, then without experimental research, it is not possible to get the find out that constructive approach is effective or not. So for this reason, that experimental method in social science research are mostly in our multidisciplinary approaches research. That any science background, any social you can do your experimental research for the benefit of the masses. That effectiveness that of that subject in our teaching learning process is the more important for the experimental researches now. So I know that everybody will know that when we are framing the hypothesis, but in the experimental research now, that a cause and effect relation is very clear in terms that we can easily identify that due to that approach, we are getting the learning outcome goods. Obviously, if we control all the situation, true control all the situation. So for this reason, we are talking of the true experimental research or quasi-experimental research. There is the different type of experimental research. But experimental methods allow the determination of the cause and effect relationship in very clear terms. And obviously, here is the most important part, it is the hypothesis. that can be tested in the best possible manner by the experimental methods only. I am underlining this word is now best possible manner. Experimental research, we can test it, the hypothesis in the best possible manner by the experimental method because it is the most scientific method and we can come to the conclusion as a universally accepted solution that if you prove the gravitational law, that is universal and accepted. So it is the universally accepted that if you not control the cause and effect relations properly, so for this reason, social science research. Now I am talking with the another aspect that we are confused in our research is now that sources of the data. Because of that, data is the most important part for the any type of research. Because without getting the any data, we are not concluding your conclusion. Because of the data is why I'm thinking about this data. Because usually when we are talking about the historical research, then we are talking about the primary data, but it is wrongly used is this word now. It is actually used at the primary source and the secondary sources. Historical research, there is a primary source and the secondary sources. But every type of research, we have used the data, two type of data. One is the primary data, another is the secondary data. Researcher বা investigator, that is the called as the primary data. But I am going to the collecting the data as a researcher. That is the most important source of data. It is is a primary. Some other sources. Say, for example, investigator from the students regarding class, caste, family background. That is obviously, it is the primary data. And same thing, this information collected about the students from the school record or registered, then it is changed into the secondary data. So social science, when using the data, is the most important part is the primary data or the secondary data. Again, I repeat it now. Data which are originally collected by the investigators that are called as a primary data, when the secondary data are collected to the some other sources, that is called as a secondary data. So these are the data is most important part. Why I'm talking use the data? Because after the COVID situation, that all of we using the Google form. With the IT revolution, nowadays questionnaire are attached to the email and sent to responses, answered through the return email. And this is the important part of the social science research. That is the survey research, we're collecting the data from the emails also, Google Forms also. And obviously nowadays it is called as a primary source of data. And for this reason, the IT revolution framing that your name, your email, your age, everything is recorded through the Google Forms now. So this data is authentic data, because so many questions will come that, sir, if we use the Google Form that we can send to the mail, obviously nowadays these Google Form, this email, if we respond from the original sender, then it is accepted way of data. For the analyzing of the data, even you can also validate your data through the Google Forms and others mails also. So it is a very important part of the area of the research also now. So secondary data are collected because when we are collecting the data, then the respondent responds to your data, then obviously it is the primary data. And nowadays, one is the important part is the plagiarisms and other checkings also. We use the data from the Google site. Then we use the secondary data. That is the other than the primary sources. They collected from the published, unpublished sources. Obviously, when we use the official publication of the central government, census, UNESCO, World Bank, IMF, or any other central and state governments, universities, and other organizations, then we can write the sources of that part now. That is the sources of that part now. So this data is a secondary data. And this data is also useful for our research work now. Because of that, this data, when we are handling this data, that investigator has to check the whether the data is suitable for the purpose of the research study. Actually, we are more confused due to the knowledge explosion, due to information explosion. We are adding more data, we are more adding the more findings from the website, different sources of the sites also. When we are collecting this secondary data, then the tabular presentation with suitable technical statistical analysis is required. You are not only the pasting these secondary data. Why, how you use this data for our problem, for using our statistical analysis and interpretation of that data, which is useful for my study or not. So this is the most important part of the suitability of the research or the secondary data is the most important part. And another thing, when we are talking about the social science, it is based on the observation. Because we are observe the human behavior. So when we are the any type of observation we follow, that different type of observation is important for the qualitative research now. The qualitative research, sorry, the qualitative research typically involves the qualitative data through the methods of interview or the on-site observation. That is a structured interview. And the on-site observation, it is the most important part for the research, especially for the social science research. Because that qualitative data are described in nature and can be statistically analyzed only after processing and after having them classified into some appropriate categories. Then qualitative data, in-depth analysis of the social situation. So when we are thinking about the social science research, then these are the most important area we are thinking about it. That observation, I know it. It is a very time consuming. It is expensive. And when we are taking the observation in limited amount of information we are collecting, there is an extraneous factor that is the interfere that our tasks of the observation. But if we overcome these disadvantages or limitation, subjective bias may be eliminated, that observation is done accurately. And independent of the response, willingness and capability to respond is the most important part of the observation methods now. For this reason, the scientific observation is a methodical way of recognizing and noting a fact or occurrence. And scientific observations should be specific and recorded immediately. Every documentation, that is the part of the observation. And we are usually the different types of the techniques, that is the interview, questionnaires, and also the different types of methods we can use also. So these are the important part for the social science research. When I am talking about the social science research, then obviously we are thinking that as a social scientist, you have a duty. What is the study about? Why is the study being made? Where will be the study carried out? What type of data is required? Where can the required data be found? What periods of time will the study include? What will be the sample design? What techniques of data collection will be used? How will the data be analyzed? and with what style will be the report be prepared. You always keep in your mind for the design decision. These are the following: what, where, how. This is the most important part of the social science research. So I am not extending more. I know it is up to the 5 o'clock, but some of the constant because I am taking the class for the university campus. So I can conclude my session that if there are any queries, you can open for discussion, that I can conclude my social science research in this lecture is now.
Participants now open its forum for
Yeah.
your questions. Participants have any questions about this area? Jyoti sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I am Boishakhi Nag from Bhairav Ganguly College.
Yeah.
Sir, your lecture was very nice and interesting. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Sir, I have a request, sir, whether you can provide study material of today's lecture.
But how is it possible to provide these study materials of this today's lecture? And what are the platform to uploading this content? Is there any platform?
We have a group.
But I am not in the group.
Sir, the organizers have constructed the group, and you can talk to them for sending your research material, study material.
Sir,
Obviously. Yeah.
Sir, you can send to Bala sir or send to
Kalinagar. Okay. I understand. But I think it is informative or not. But you need why study material, but you can understand or not.
Yes, sir. Very much understandable and informative.
Sir, it is very much informative and interesting. I have enjoyed all over the session.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
So, any other questions?
Thank you, sir. Very informative, beautifully explained as usual. Reminds me of my B.Ed classes. My regards, sir. My regards.
Thank you for Ishwarjo for your appreciation of that past events also now.
You deserve it, sir. You absolutely deserve it. Thanks a lot, sir. খুব ভালো থাকবেন। পরে যোগাযোগ করবো আবার। Thank you, sir.
But actually, unfortunately or fortunately, we just prepared in the university campus because it lately informed today. So I prepared this content in universities only. So for this reason, I have not communicated you through the PowerPoint presentation. If possible, then I will give the PowerPoint presentation. But it is from my experience I can sharing with you. After that, I am preparing the note and I can send to you if you require it now. Okay.
Okay, sir.
স্যার আপনার স্টুডেন্ট হওয়ার সুযোগ সরাসরি আমার হয়নি, কিন্তু আজকের ক্লাসটা করে আমার এত ভালো লাগলো। রিসার্চ মেথডোলজি নিয়ে যে আমাদের মধ্যে এনরিচড হবার সুযোগ আজকে ভীষণভাবে পেলাম আপনার এই ক্লাস থেকে, এবং প্রত্যেকটা কথা ফলো করতে পেরেছি। এত সহজ লেগেছে, এত ইজি করে বলতে পেরেছেন আপনি। আপনার তার জন্য আরেকবার থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
ছোট একটা কোশ্চেন জিজ্ঞাসা করবো স্যার। বলছি স্যার, মানে আমার একটু মানে জানার জন্য স্যার, সার্ভে আর ফিল্ড সার্ভে কি এক? ডু দে মানে ক্যারি দ্য সেম মিনিং, সার্ভে এন্ড ফিল্ড সার্ভে?
মানে ইট ইজ ভেরি গুড কোশ্চেন। মানে সার্ভের আগে কিন্তু আমরা একটা ফিল্ড সার্ভে বসিয়ে দিচ্ছি, ঠিক আছে তো? তার মানে এটা সার্ভে মেথডের হচ্ছে একটা মেথড, সেটা হচ্ছে ফিল্ড সার্ভে করতে যাওয়া। কিন্তু এখন ওই ফিল্ড সার্ভেটা অনলি ফর দ্যাট সিচুয়েশন, দ্যাট সার্কামস্টেন্সেস এর জন্য, বাট ইট ইজ নট অ্যাপ্লিকেবল ফর দ্য আদার ফিল্ডস অলসো।
ওকে স্যার।
That is the situation and circumstances. It is very important part for that field surveys now.
Okay, sir. Thank
Sir,
you, sir.
কোনো-
Once again.
স্যার কোনো ব্যক্তির কাছে যখন ইন্টারভিউ নিতে যাই আমরা বা কোনো রিসার্চার যাবেন, তো সেই ব্যক্তির নিজস্ব মতামত তো সেখানে খানিকটা বায়াসনেস তৈরি করে ফেলতে পারে। তো
একদম
সেইগুলোতে
খুব সুন্দর প্রদীপবাবু প্রশ্নটা তুলেছেন। সেই জায়গাটা, কারণ আমার তো আজকে শর্ট পিরিয়ড, সেই জন্য আমি এতটুকু বলতে পারিনি যে এইখানটাতে কি বলুন তো, কতগুলো হচ্ছে স্ট্রাকচার্ড ইন্টারভিউ এবং হচ্ছে আনস্ট্রাকচার্ড ইন্টারভিউ বলে ইন্টারভিউ এর কতগুলো প্যাটার্ন আছে আর কি। আমরা যখন যাই তখন হচ্ছে উই মাস্ট ফলো দ্য স্ট্রাকচার ইন্টারভিউ, অর্থাৎ আমরা তার বাইরে কিছুতেই বেরোতে চাইবো না। আর দ্বিতীয় হচ্ছে আমি যখন কোশ্চেন ফ্রেমিংটা করব তখন আমার যেন একটা ক্রস ভেরিফিকেশনের হচ্ছে চয়েস থাকে। সে ফর এক্সাম্পল আমি প্রথম যে প্রশ্নটা করব আমার 20% মানে 20th প্রশ্ন অর্থাৎ 20তম প্রশ্নটা হবে, ওইটারই কিন্তু হচ্ছে ক্রস ভেরিফিকেশন। কারণ প্রথমে ও যখন উত্তরটা দিয়েছিল তখন হয়তো ও বায়াসড হয়ে কিছু উত্তর দিয়েছিল, কিন্তু এই প্রসেসে আস্তে আস্তে যখন 20তে আসবে তখন কিন্তু সে অরিজিনাল উত্তরটাই দিয়ে দেবে। তাহলে 20 উত্তরটাই হচ্ছে কিন্তু হচ্ছে অরিজিনাল উত্তর, 1 উত্তরটা হচ্ছে কিন্তু রিজেক্টেড উত্তর।
ঠিক 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 ঠিক
ইউ আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড?
হ্যাঁ 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 হ্যাঁ,
এটা হচ্ছে স্ট্রাকচার্ড ইন্টারভিউ।
ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Any other questions?
Is there any other question? Then we say.
Sir, I think
হ্যালো বিশ্বজিৎ স্যার।
স্যার একটা কোয়েশ্চেন ছিল।
হ্যাঁ বলুন।
আমি শ্রাবণী আচার্য, গান্ধী সেন্টেনারি বিটি কলেজ থেকে বলছি।
ও আচ্ছা, সব
স্যার আপনার,
ভালো।
হ্যাঁ স্যার আপনার লেকচারটা শুনে মানে প্রেজেন্টেশন ছাড়াই আপনি যেভাবে বলেছেন খুব ভালো লাগলো, মানে বুঝতে খুবই ভালোভাবে পারলাম। খুব সুন্দর হয়েছে স্যার আপনার লেকচার।
থ্যাংক ইউ থ্যাংক ইউ থ্যাংক ইউ।
স্যার বলছি স্ট্রাকচার,
হ্যাঁ বলুন বলুন।
বলছি স্ট্রাকচার ইন্টারভিউ কোয়েশ্চেন যেটা, সেটা তো আগে থেকেই ফিক্স করে রাখো। কোয়েশ্চেনটা তো সারা মানে যখনই কোয়েশ্চেনটা করি না কেন কোয়েশ্চেনটা ফিক্স থাকবে, প্রিপেয়ার মানে আর্লি প্রিপেয়ার, তাই তো?
অবভিয়াসলি, কিন্তু স্ট্রাকচার ইন্টারভিউ করার আগে কি বলুন তো একটা প্রি পাইলট স্টাডি করা খুব দরকার, যেটা আমরা একদমই করি না।
ওটা কিভাবে করব?
সোশ্যাল সায়েন্সের রিসার্চের সবচেয়ে বড় গুরুত্বপূর্ণ পার্ট হচ্ছে কি বলুন তো ডেটা। আপনি যে ডেটাগুলোকে নিচ্ছেন সেই ডেটাটার অথেন্টিসিটিটা কতটা, না হলে কিন্তু আপনার ডেটাগুলো ঠিক মতন প্রেজেন্টেশন করা যায় না। তো সেই জন্য হচ্ছে আপনাকে হচ্ছে প্রি ইন্টারভিউ স্ট্রাকচার একটা আমরা পাইলট স্টাডি করে সেটাকে স্ট্যাটিস্টিক্যালি অ্যানালাইজ করে তার রিলায়েবিলিটি, ভ্যালিডিটি, অবজেক্টিভিটি অ্যানালাইজ করে তারপরে কিন্তু আমরা ইন্টারভিউতে যাওয়া উচিত। ওই কয়েকটা কাগজ লিখে নিলাম তারপরে গেলাম, এটা কিন্তু স্ট্রাকচার ইন্টারভিউ এর ফর্মুলা বলে না।
তাহলে কি সেক্ষেত্রে নাম্বার অফ কোয়েশ্চেন অনেকগুলো করতে হবে?
না, এইবারে মানে হচ্ছে there is a no limitation in the social science research is the number of question is more than quality research will be done. আপনি লিমিটেড কোশ্চেন করেও কিন্তু গুড কোয়ালিটি অফ রিসার্চ বার করা যায় যদি আপনার কন্টেন্ট অ্যানালিসিসটা ঠিক থাকে। আমি আজকে আপনাদেরকে কন্টেন্ট অ্যানালিসিসটা বলতে পারলাম না, কিন্তু সোশ্যাল সায়েন্স রিসার্চের সবচেয়ে বড় গুরুত্বপূর্ণ পার্ট হচ্ছে কি বলুন তো কন্টেন্ট অ্যানালিসিসটা। এটা কিন্তু খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ পার্ট, যে আপনার কন্টেন্টটা যদি একদম ঠিক থাকে, স্পেসিফিক হয়, তাহলে আপনার ইন্টারভিউটা ওই কন্টেন্টকে যাতে হচ্ছে এরিয়াটাকে কভার করে তৈরি করতে পারা যায়, সেটাই কিন্তু গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ব্যাপার। আমরা হয়ে যায় কি বলুন তো আমরা পেরিফেরিতে যাতায়াত করি, আমরা মূল সেন্টারে গিয়ে প্রশ্নটা করি না।
সেটাই, মানে একদম পার্টিকুলার আমরা হতে পারছি না এই
পার্টিকুলার হতে
কাজের
পারছি না।
ক্ষেত্রে।
আপনাকে যদি এই মুহূর্তে যদি আমি প্রশ্ন করি যে আপনাকে যদি কনস্ট্রাকটিভিস্ট অ্যাপ্রোচ গুড অর ব্যাড, আপনি বলবেন যে এটা আমার পক্ষে বলাটা খুব সুবিধে না। কেন বলাটা সুবিধা যাবে না? আমি যদি বলি আপনি কি কনস্ট্রাকটিভিস্ট অ্যাপ্রোচ ক্লাসে অ্যাপ্লাই করেন, তখন আপনি বলবেন না আমি মাঝে মাঝে অ্যাপ্লাই করি, কখনো অ্যাপ্লাই করি না, এটা বলবেন না। তাহলে যে মাঝে মাঝে অ্যাপ্লাই করে সে কনস্ট্রাকটিভিস্ট অ্যাপ্রোচ সম্পর্কে কারেক্ট রেসপন্স কি করে করবে? এই জায়গাটাতে আমাকে খুব সাবজেক্টিভ থেকে অবজেক্টিভে হতে হবে। ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ। বিশ্বজিৎ বাবুকে থ্যাংক ইউ দেওয়ার উচিত,
থ্যাংক ইউ
কারণ
স্যার।
বিশ্বজিৎ বাবু আমাকে বলেছেন।
আমাকে থ্যাংক ইউ বলবেন না, কারণ আপনি এত ব্যস্ততার মধ্যেও আজকেই আপনার সঙ্গে যোগাযোগ করেছিলেন এবং আপনি সঙ্গে সঙ্গে রাজি হয়ে এত সুন্দর লেকচার দিলেন উইদাউট পাওয়ার পয়েন্ট প্রেজেন্টেশন। এ ভোলার না, পার্টিসিপেন্টরাই বলছেন। অ্যাজ এ অর্গানাইজার খুবই প্রাউড ফিল করছি যে আপনি আমন্ত্রণ গ্রহণ করেছেন এবং অসাধারণ বক্তব্য পেশ করলেন খুব সুন্দরভাবে। আশা করি পার্টিসিপেন্টরা খুব উপকৃত হয়েছেন। আমাদের মধ্যে দুটো ইনস্টিটিউটেরই ফ্যাকাল্টি মেম্বাররাই আছেন, কৃষ্ণা ম্যাডাম, মন্দিরা ম্যাডাম, সুভাষিস বাবু এবং প্রমোদ স্যার। আমরা 1 মিনিট স্যার বলছি যে আমাদের একটা কাজ আছে পার্টিসিপেন্টদের দিক দিয়ে। প্রমোদ স্যার, আপনি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন স্যার?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, শুনতে পাচ্ছেন, বসে আছি স্যার।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। তা যাই হোক স্যার একটু ব্যস্ত আছেন, আপনাদের অবগতির জন্য জানাই আমরা গুগল ফর্মে আপনাদের কাছ থেকে যে ছবি এবং ডিটেলসটা নেব সেটা জানিয়ে রাখছি। আজকেই আমরা আপনাদের গ্রুপে জানিয়ে দেব। আর হচ্ছে আপনাদের কাছে অনুরোধ, আপনাদের নামটা নেম ক্যাপিটাল লেটারে লিখবেন। হ্যাঁ, এইটা যেন মাথায় থাকে। আমরা আজকে রাত্রেই গুগল ফর্ম আপনাদের দিয়ে দেবো। আর স্যার তো কি বলবো, একেবারে রিসার্চ মেথডের বিষয়গুলো এত সুন্দরভাবে মানে খুব প্রাঞ্জল ভাষায় ব্যাখ্যা করেছেন। আশা করি আপনারা খুব উপকৃত হলেন। স্যারকে আবার ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি। আমি মডারেটরকে বলছি আপনি কাইন্ডলি এগিয়ে নিয়ে যান।
একটা কথাই বলছি তাহলে,
স্যারকে আবারও পাওয়ার খুব অপেক্ষায় থাকলাম। যদি সরাসরি দেখা করার
লোকে বলছি আইসিটি ইজ নট এ অনলি টুলস, উইদাউট আইসিটি ও ক্লাস নেওয়া যায়।
একদমই ঠিক কথা। পাওয়ার পয়েন্টই সবসময় বিরাট ব্যাপার না। হ্যাঁ ঠিক
ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ Vishwesh sir for your kind cooperation with me and you give these opportunities of that platform. I am very grateful to you and thank you all of the participants on all of that, and some of the information is any required and we can leave this at platform. Which one? Is anyone can you speak something?
কৃষ্ণা ম্যাডাম আর আমাদের মডারেটর যিনি আছেন কাইন্ডলি যদি প্রসিড করেন।
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for thank you, Bala sir. Thank you, sir, Kaushik sir, for giving us about this social science research area to elaborate. We enrich and we delightful to listen your words about the social science area, social science research area. Sir, once again, thank you to briefly discuss about the quantitative and qualitative data and what is the minor difference between of qualitative and quantitative data. And you also put down about the scientific observation, which is the important part of observation and data collection. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable idea and we are very much enriched about your lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now I call to Miss Pinky Gupta to give formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Pinky Gupta. I'm a first semester student of Baba Saheb Ambedkar Education University. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of our entire organizing team, expressing my heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished resource person, Dr. Kaushik Chatterjee, sir, for for not only sparing his invaluable time for us to grace this occasion, but also enlightening us with his commendable speech on this subject. Thank you, sir, for such a valuable and informative lecture. You have indeed put your best effort to make this event an unforgettable event. We're really thankful and